All right, here we are. So the first thing that you're going to do anytime that we do perspective is you need a horizon line. Now the horizon line, we're going to do 1 point perspective, by the way. This is going to be an example of that. Right? Horizon line is that imaginary line where the earth meets the sky. And on that imaginary line, if we're doing 1 point perspective, we have a vanishing point, and that's where you get the 1 point. There's only one of them on the vanishing point. Now, as we get into more of the detailed ones like 2 point and 3 point perspective, right, you're going to have more vanishing points to choose from. But this is your VP, your valuable player, your vanishing point. Now, anywhere on your paper, right, you're going to make a square just to kind of show you guys the difference between 1 point versus 2 point. And if you want to draw multiple squares, you can. For those of you guys that don't have a straight edge like I do at home, you can actually just use a sheet of drawing paper. This is kind of like an old worksheet. If you fold it in half a couple times, it doesn't even matter if you fold it straight or not. Wherever you have the folded side, you can just use that as a way to draw your square. So draw a square, rectangle shape somewhere on your paper. Your horizon line and your vanishing point. Oh no, everybody's Wi-Fi is getting bad. Okay, I'll make a video of this just when you have time to watch it and do it in your sketchbooks. Just do so. I'll email Kristen that too. All right, next thing with 1 point perspective, if you've done this before, right? And anytime you're making a 1 point perspective, right, you're always going to start with the shape of the object. So, for example, a square, you could do a cylinder on here. A circle on here to make a cylinder. It doesn't matter. You always start with the shape first because you're always looking head on at the object. So, for example, if this was a little person that lived in a building, right, this would be the front of the building that we're looking at. So now what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line back towards our vanishing point. And these, we call them diagonal lines or orthogonal lines. And that's what creates the depth in our perspective drawing. Does this kind of ring some bells for those of you guys that did this back in 7th grade with Bobville? All right, so start off and make your shape and then make some lines that go back towards your vanishing point. If you have done those things, give me a thumbs up, a winky face, whatever in the comments, and I'll move on. Use this one. Vanish. All right. This just a little bit more, maybe, if it'll let me. Okay, perfect. I'm going to grab a couple different Sharpies. All right. All right, so here's your shape that you're going to start off with. All right, and then we're going to make these orthogonal lines that go back. Those are our diagonal ones that I made in red. You do not have to color code this. I'm just color coding this so that it looks right to you. Now, this is not a cube yet, and the reason why it's not a cube is because we actually, at some point, as things are going, farther back, they do end up ending in space. So I'm just going to keep this part of my diagonal lines, and I'm going to make a horizontal line across to close off the top part of my object. then the bottom of it. And then when you're done, you're going to erase your red lines, right? And you'll be left with a cube. So that's when you're going to erase. Right. And then when you're left off, I'll do another one over here. Now, the closer your object is to a vanishing point, the less of that diagonal or that length and that width that we're going to see here, the less of it you're going to see. It's going to be more skewed. So this makes a very tight triangle versus the opposite side that does not. And the reason why is because it's just closer to our center line of our vanishing point that's here. Right, use your horizontal line, side lines. Right, they either go up and down or back and forth. So anytime that you use perspective, for the most part, and normally you're using 3 types of lines. And I'm just making some notes if you guys might want to do this too, if you are not versed in perspective drawing. So there's horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. Okay, so go ahead and write those things on your sketchbook. If you're done, you can go ahead and write in some other things, but I do want you to write up here, uses one vanishing point, and it's the front view of an object. So front view, meaning we're looking at it head on. Or I'll write front view or head on. All right, when you guys are done with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next piece, which is 2-point perspective. 2-point perspective. Let me guys know when you're ready. Here, if you guys can't see this really well, I'll go over my lines with some black Sharpie. One-point perspective. Put better Sharpie in here. Maybe not. No, of course not. Use as one vanishing point. Oh, geez, that Sharpie's had its day. All right, or its head on. Just erasing my pencil line underneath my. All right. Awesome. All right. So make sure that you also write that there's 3 types of lines in any type of perspective drawings. There's horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. So if you're drawing something and it looks a little funky, like it doesn't look right, use your observation skills and play around with the different types of lines. Like you're probably using a vertical line when you should draw a horizontal line, or maybe you're using a diagonal line when you should be using a horizontal line. Like switch it up until the actual object looks correct. All right, we're going to move on to 2-point perspective, and we're going to draw the same cube, but what it will look like in 2-point perspective. So go ahead and write 2-point. I just do 2 PT for 2-point perspective. Bam, blammo. And we're going to start off the same way that we did last time, and we're just going to draw a horizon line, doesn't matter where. And this time we're going to add 2 vanishing points, and we're going to add the vanishing points because if you're doing a vertical, make sure you have them farthest to the edge of the line. So I have one on the left and one on the right. So I'm just going to label those VP and VP. Maybe number 1, number 2. All right. So big key things about 2-point perspective. It has 2 vanishing points. And guys, interrupt me if you need some help. 2 vanishing points. It's also the viewpoint is looking at the corner or the side of an object. So of the side or corner I guess if you wanted to just write side view, that might be easier to remember. So it's a side view of an object. So if you're an artist and you're like, man, I have this comic book drawing and I want to, I'm drawing an issue of Spider-Man, and you decide that you want to include the corner or the edge of a building so that you could show like 2 streets that maybe Spider-Man's flying down, right? You might want to use 2-point perspective in your drawing. You might also want to use 2-point perspective if you're an architect and you want to draw 2 different views or 2 different sides of the house and show that to or building, and you want to show that to your client, right? 2-point perspective can be really good for that. So how does 2-point perspective start? Well, you have to have your horizon line and your 2 vanishing points, and then the next thing is that you have to draw your corner or the corner of the object. So if you're doing a building, for example, here I'm going to draw a building that's below the horizon line. So remember, anytime you draw something below the horizon line, you're going to see the top of it. I'm going to make this a little bit shorter so it's not as close to the top part, so I can show you how you would see the top of this building. So this is going to end up being the corner of my building. So all you're going to do is start off with a vertical line. Now the next thing we're going to do is from the top and bottom of that line, we're going to draw lines to either side. You might want to watch me first before you go and do this, because this is when things get a little hairy. All right, so from the bottom of our line, draw a line towards vanishing point 1, and then also 2 from the top of our vertical line, we're also going to draw a line towards vanishing point 2. Okay. Have I lost anyone yet? Here, I'll draw those diagonal lines in red so you guys can see them a little bit better. Right, and then from the top and bottom, we're also going to do the same thing and line up our straight edge with the area over here. Now, guys, I hope you're following along with me because I am going to have you turn this in. And if you haven't been, I am videotaping the instruction here so that you can watch it back later in case if you fell behind. Okay. All right, so now that you should have something that kind of looks like this V symbol that's here with our main line that's in the middle. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to determine is how wide we want it. We're going to make a box here. So how wide do we want to make it? And we're going to make 2 vertical lines that indicate where the side of the box ends farthest away. We're going to make a line on this side on the left, and then another line in between these two lines that we just drew on the right. And I'm going to darken these lines that I have that are diagonal here so that you guys can kind of see what it should look like on your paper. Right, because we want to block those in. Anything that's dotted is something that you would be erasing. Okay, and now we have what looks like two sides of a building. So if we were looking, right at the corner of something that's square or rectangular, right, this would be the edge of it. A great way to look at it is if you have a tissue box in front of you. It's as if you are looking at the corner of it, and then these are the lines, going back towards your vanishing points on either side of that front line. Okay. All right, we are not done here. The next thing that we need to do is build the top of it, right? Because anything that's below, if something is below the vanishing point, if it's below, you will see the top. Okay, so if you have something that's below the horizon line, you're going to see the top of the object. If you have something that's above the horizon line, completely above, you would probably also see the bottom of it, right? Because this line is indicating the Earth, right? So obviously we are above it. Next thing I'm going to do is from this corner of our box, I'm going to draw a line towards our second vanishing point. So we're almost going to do a crisscross here. This is kind of where things get a little funky. Okay. And then from this edge that's over here, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go back towards the opposite vanishing point. So I'm going to go back towards 1. I'm just making some dotted lines here. And now I have a building or a cube or something that's in 2-point perspective, right? I have a side view of it. If you wanted to add a door, right, add some more vertical lines. And then the side of the door would go towards our vantage point. But we'll get more into that, those like fun details of like windows and that kind of thing, because if depending on what side those objects are on, right, is going to change what vanishing point it goes to. So if you have something on the left, it's more than likely going to go towards your first vanishing point. If you have something that's on the right, like this door, it's going to go towards that vanishing point. Yeah. Cool. All right, when you guys are done with 2-point perspective, we're going to get into 3-point perspective. That's the last one that we're going to be drawing a rectangular prism in. And let me know how you're doing. If you guys are struggling, if you need help, you want me to look at it. If you're waiting, you can go ahead and try to draw some other stuff in there. Just making this darker, so maybe it's a little bit easier to see. Cool means have I lost anyone yet? Feel free to use the chat or speak up. Awesome. All right, we're going to do our last one. Stop me if you need more time. All right, the last type of perspective that we're going to do is 3-point perspective. Obviously, it has 3 points, or 3 vanishing points, excuse me. That's one of the characteristics. And this type of perspective will create a worm's eye or a bird's eye view. So if you're looking up at something, you want something to look like super, super tall, like a skyscraper, or say you're looking down on something and you want it to look like it's getting smaller and smaller as it gets farther and farther away from you, right? This is what you would use to create that effect. So this is aerial or bird's eye. Or worm's eye. So it's an aerial view or bird's eye view or a worm's eye view. This is what you would use that for. So I'm going to make this horizon line a little closer to the top of my paper, and you'll see why in just a minute. And it starts out very similar to 2-point perspective, where you're going to create, your horizon line. You're going to make two vanishing points. So here's my vanishing point number 1. Here's number 2. I'm just going to put VP next to mine. So I wrote 1 PT VP, 2 PT VP, meaning 2-point vanishing point or second point. And then the third one, if we are going to be looking down on something, say we're going to do this bird's eye view, right? We're going to add our third one down towards the bottom of our page. Right, and this is where your third point is. And I know that sounds funny, like why would it be all the way down here at the bottom of your page? But I'll show you guys in just a minute. Okay, so with 3-point perspective, all of the sides of your object are going to go down towards your third vanishing point. So I'm going to go back to 2-point. Right here, all of the sides are vertical. Right? These are all vertical in 2-point perspective, and 1-point perspective, all of the sides here, they start out vertical. Well, in 3-point perspective, they may be vertical, but they are possibly also diagonal. So I'm going to draw a line down towards my third point here, and I'm going to also make 2 more points on either, or 2 more lines, excuse me, on either side of it. So it should kind of look like this, like 3 lines coming out from this vanishing point down here. Now I'm making sure that these lines don't go all the way up to the vanishing point. And the reason why is because I want a bird's eye view, like I'm looking down, a worm's eye view, like I'm looking up at the horizon line, right? So this is good. I'll show you guys the next one too with Whoa, I drew my little worm. Worm's eye. Or maybe this is, yes. Right, we're looking up at the horizon. Yes, we are. Okay. Sorry, sometimes I get myself a little mixed up. All right, we only have 7 minutes left. So the next thing that we're going to do is we want to make the sides going back into space, right? We want to create that depth. So to do that, from the center line, always remember your center line, you're going to draw some lines back towards your vanishing point. Now, I might need to bring up these lines to touch it. Right, and you should have something that kind of looks like a V. So all I did was from the top of this middle line, I just drew some lines back towards my vanishing point. Actually, this is bird's eye, excuse me. My like we above it. Caca. There's my little bird up in the top there. All right, now we have what looks like the top of our building, right? You're going to do the same thing that you guys did with 2 point, whereas from each edge, you're going to go back towards your vanishing point to close this off. So each farthest corner here, that's our side walls. And now you should have almost like this diamond shape, where it looks like you have a diamond that's upside down pyramid kind of thing going on. If I've lost any of you, let me know. Cool. All right, and when you're done, you can go ahead and erase any of the extra lines that are kind of extending out from that diamond that we just made. Right, those lines we can erase. And if they still show up, that's fine, because sometimes it helps you like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. And then the next step is, this is fine just as like a city building. You know, if you had windows and stuff on it, it would be going down to the street here. But normally city buildings are not, they're not pointed on the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to go off from our center line a little bit and make a line towards the second vanishing point and another one to the first vanishing point on the opposite side. And what this does is it's going to kind of cut off the bottom of your building. So now we kind of have these edges that are down here that match the top part. Whoop, mine got a little crooked there. They come to a point. And then I'm going to erase these lines underneath. If I'm going too fast for you, let me know. All right, so draw some lines up. And now you have what looks like a building that somebody could stand on the top of. And this guy is definitely not 7 head lengths. And the bell's going to ring in just a couple minutes, but before it does, do you guys have any questions for me? Need any help with anything? Going once? Going twice? Okay. All right, before you leave, I want to show you guys a few things, because sometimes people are like, oh, yeah, I see that it's 3D, but how do you put this into an actual drawing? I'm just going to erase this, right? So if this was a city building and it had a doorway on the edge of it, right, I'm still going to go down towards my vanishing point here. Whoop, that's a really thin doorway. Let's make it a little bit thicker. Here. And then from this line here, we're going to go up towards our vanishing point. All right, so the only thing that's really changed from the 2 point is that we now have all of our vertical lines are actually have become, diagonal lines. We'll put a big giant window on here on this side. Not that we would ever have that big of a window, but maybe I guess if it's a city building. Have you ever seen like the ones that have like the whole entire building is just like a wall of windows? Whoa, and I know this looks weird. It looks like piano keys down the side of the building, but I promise you it'll make sense in just a minute. It's like a corporate office. Wow. Okay. So this is a great way to create the effect that you're looking down at something. I'll show you guys how to do worm's eye view so it looks like you're standing at the bottom of the building and you're looking way up in the sky next class. And then we'll talk about your next project with perspective. Sound cool? All right, guys, you are welcome to pack up your things. I'm going to leave this out in case if you need to write down any notes. If you guys are done with that, tomorrow I'm going to have you guys turn in each one of these pages, or the one page that you had all of these on. So you should have in your sketchbook, 1 point perspective uses one vanishing point, and it's a front view or head on. There are 3 different types of lines to create the illusion of perspective: horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. 2 point uses 2 points, and it's a side view. And then 3 point uses 3 vanishing points. It's either an aerial view or a worm's eye view. You have a little example there. And that's it for today's lesson.